has been a minute since we've popped over to Mykelti and Tony's Patreon, so let us check in with Kody's last kid standing, who is still speaking out somewhat publicly. I caught their last watch along where they reacted to season 4, episode 2, and this was the episode where Kody cosplays as a loving husband, taking all 4 of his wives out on dates, 3 of whom know this to be a very rare occurrence. There was this conversation that took place between Meri and Christine in this episode that elicited some strong emotions and reactions from Mykelti, but especially Tony. Tony called this conversation grade A brainwashing and a perfect example of how polygamy is oppressive to women. We have a lot to talk about. Let's get into today's video. Hey everyone, what's up? It's Sarah and welcome back to my channel. There's a lot of descriptors that I feel like are fair ways to describe Christine. A princess, for example. While I believe Kody always meant that in a derogatory way, I think it is a fair way to describe the kind of love story that Christine has always yearned for. I mean, despite growing up in a culture where the deck was so stacked against women, Christine dreamed of a fairy tale love story, and she tried to make that happen with her 1/4 of a husband, but he just found that to be yet another annoying personality quirk of hers. Something else that definitely annoyed Kody about Christine is she was the wife most willing to air their dirty laundry on their reality show. In the very first episode of the series, Christine told us that she thought courting a 4th wife was a terrible idea. She was never one to sit and fake the funk, despite how hard Kody tried to get her to just keep sweet. It's actually sad to go back and rewatch Sister Wives and realize just how often Christine was basically screaming about how miserable she was in her marriage to Kody, only to be brushed off by Kody and her sister wives time and time again. One example of this occurs in this episode, and Mykelti and Tony react to it. Kody takes all of his wives out on individual dates. Meri ends up getting injured during her ski date, and Christine stops by to chit-chat and check in on her because, you know, Christine is such a terrible sister wife. Christine opens up to Meri about the fact that she is still struggling with Kody, and Meri gives Christine some truly awful advice.
Each wife has a relationship with her sister wives, and I have a relationship with each of my wives. If that relationship is bad, I'm going to go and get consensus from her sister wives on the problems she has with me and see if she can't either get advice from them or tell them that they're the problem or tell them how much I am a problem.
You guys have a cute family picture. We never did a family picture.
You didn't?
No. I mean, asking him to do something when you're not really on good terms. Hello, no, he's not going to want to do family pictures with me. There's things about a relationship that we need to discuss and we need to fix.
Until you start changing and you start improving and doing things better, it's not going to make a difference.
Okay, but at what point does he realize he's made mistakes too?
I don't know when that point will be. It takes him a long time. It is hard for guys, Christine, to come back and say, you know, I was wrong.
It's like I have to do everything one-sided then. I have to fix me.
You do. I'm serious.
And has that really helped you?
Yeah, it has.
I don't see that it has. Meri, he hasn't gone out of town with you all of last year. You didn't get a birthday or an anniversary. I'm sorry.
Last year, you're right. It was just bad timing. But you know what matters more is the relationship that I have with him when he's around. But you make the best of it when you're together, and you figure out another way to work through your own issues without putting it all on him.
It makes me really sad that Christine said that she wasn't comfortable enough to ask Kody to take family pictures. So all the other households got family pictures that year and not Christine. That is so sad. Meri literally says, quote, "Until you start changing and you start improving and doing things better, it's not going to make a difference," end quote. Ma'am, Meri, be so fucking for real right now. And we will get into Tony's reaction in a minute because Mykelti and Tony reacting to this conversation was very interesting to me. Mykelti was in kind of an explain away the polygamy mode, and Tony was like, nah, dude, this is just grade A brainwashing. Meri is explicitly telling Christine that if she wants her relationship with Kody to get better, she's the one who needs to do all the changing. Kody is not going to change, so his wives have to adapt and overcome in order to have a pleasant marriage. Christine's like, well, that fucking sucks. And yeah, Christine, it does suck. It's not right. And we are all so glad that you are now married to a man who endorses your love of a fairy tale romance. Meri tells Christine it's hard for guys to say they're wrong, and I actually strongly disagree. I really don't think that this is a gender-specific problem. I think it's more of a narcissist problem, and Kody is very much a narcissist. I think that there are men all over the world who have absolutely no problem saying when they are wrong. Let's get into Mykelti and Tony's reaction, but really it's mostly Tony's take on this convo. Now, just as a reminder, I don't play clips that are from behind a paywall, so I'll just be quoting what they said. I will link their Patreon in the description of this video so you can subscribe and see their watch-alongs for yourself if you would like. So here are some of the things that Tony and Mykelti had to say. Mykelti says, quote, I obviously have never lived polygamy, but I strongly believe that if you ignore your problems, if you shove them under the rug, if you fake it, you will not, in fact, make it. And, quote, I don't think that that works. She also says, quote, I think anytime Tony and I are having issues with each other, we can tell when one another is faking it and it just ruins the rest of the day, end quote. And to summarize some more of what she says, Mykelti says that she agrees partially with what Meri says here, and she has to recognize there are times she's not always right. And she ends up going and giving the example that her and Tony right now are in the midst of potty training Avalon, and it's really a team effort. It's not entirely one parent's responsibility if Avalon has a good or a bad potty training day. And a couple things that immediately jumped to my mind when she said that was, one, Kody never participated in the potty training of any of his children. And yeah, a relationship can't be completely one-sided for only one of the participants in said relationship to do all of the ebbing and flowing in order to make things work. That's extremely unhealthy and toxic. And Tony clocks this and he goes in on what he thinks about this whole marriage setup. Tony says he didn't like any of Meri's advice. He didn't agree with any of it. He said, quote, it's wild, like, I'm sorry, but like out of all the times when I see polygamy be an oppressive system to women, this is one time I feel like some brainwashing is really coming out. He goes on to say, quote, the way she's talking is like grade A brainwashed. And quote, are you serious? I can't believe it. In his reaction, Tony goes on to point out that Christine is already noting just how rocky her relationship is with Kody, and we're just in season 4. And her approach just isn't working. And Tony also notes that it's really telling for how Christine's relationship with Kody ultimately ends up. And then Tony gives us a list of all the ways Meri's advice really backfired the most on Meri herself. He says that Meri was the first one to get dumped, the first one to be estranged. She got estranged the most because, according to Tony, Meri ended up cheating. And Tony says that Meri got the farthest away the soonest using Meri's approach. And Meri was the most brainwashed and most delusional. This may be an unpopular take, but I don't really disagree with anything Tony says here about Meri. And it's sad. I think it was bold for Tony to point out that not only polygamy, but the Browns' setup of plural marriage was extremely oppressive to women. And I honestly wonder if Kody is going to have anything to say about all of what Mykelti and Tony's reactions were in this episode. Tony is basically saying Kody's wives were brainwashed into accepting the less than common decency from their husband, and that was wild to Tony. Tony is not necessarily a fan favorite in the Sister Wives community, and even he is saying that the culture Kody has cultivated is wildly oppressive and unrealistic. Let that sink in. What did you guys think of this conversation between Meri and Christine? Extremely telling of things to come, and sadly, it does shed light onto why on earth Meri hung on for as long as she did. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. As always, make sure you like this video and subscribe to my channel. Check out my second channel, Sarah Spills, and my podcast, Mostly Harmless. Links for both of those will be in the description of this video. Follow me on Instagram, Threads, X, and TikTok at Reality Squad, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Take care. Have a good one. Much love.